Hey everyone, welcome to I Dream of Homestead. I'm Josephina and today we are in my kitchen making some beeswax wraps. I have been using beeswax wraps in my home for about 3 years now. I originally wanted to purchase them, but when I saw the price for just getting like 3 or 4 of them, it hurt my feelings. And then I saw the difference in the price of the materials and how cheap it is to just make these on your own. So that's what I started doing. I just made all of mine on my own, and with these, it's fantastic because they will last you 6 months to a year before they start to lose that stickiness. The waxiness just kind of starts to fade off of it from using it and washing it. So it is now time for me to make some new ones. So rather than going and re-waxing a bunch of them, I wanted to walk you guys through how to do it. So I have some fabric, some wax, and we are going to jump into it. So if you've never heard of these wax wraps, I currently have one on a lime here, and what this is an environmentally friendly, money-saving way to put away your food without having to use plastic wrap, plastic baggies, foil, anything like that to cover it. So instead what you do is you take the wax wrap, you put it on whatever item it is that you're wanting to store, you fold the wax wrap against itself, and then using the heat of your hands, you just hold it there in place, whether that's a bowl, the fruit, whatever it is that you've got. You hold it over it and let the heat of your hand soften up that beeswax, and then it'll cause it to stick to itself, and then you can just put it away. And then because of that waxy coating that's on it, it protects air from getting through to whatever it is that you have covered up and drying it out, making it nasty. So for these wax wraps, you're going to need some beeswax. I get mine from a local beekeeper. The closest one to me is literally 10 minutes down the road, and it's called Bee City. So these are, I want to say about $7 or $8 for this entire block, and I'm probably only going to use half of it, and that's going to make me so many wax wraps of different sizes. So the other thing is some 100% cotton fabric. You can get it with print on it. You can get it just one solid color. You can get ones that are already pre-cut so that you don't have to do all that work. I like to cut mine because I have a variety of different things that I like to cover. I've got an onion out, I've got a lime, I've got an avocado, I've got typical bowls and things that I will use that don't have lids. That way I can measure these things out, and whenever I have something that I need to put away, I will have the right size wraps to be able to cover all of these things and not be going through and sifting through something to figure out what I can use to cover it, or then having to put it in a different container and then having several dirty bowls that I have to use. So I've got all the things that I need to measure, and of course that means that I'm gonna need some scissors to cut out. I've also got a paintbrush right now. It's waxed, so it's pretty solid, but I'll show you guys how I get the wax that's stuck on here to melt off. But I will use this to be able to brush the wax on it once it's melted onto the cloth. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna open this cloth up. This is humongous. I do not need all this. So I'm going to start by cutting it in half. I've got a pencil, and I'm gonna start off with some of the larger things. So I wanna leave enough room around it to where when I fold it over to stick onto it, there's enough on the edges to cover. So okay, so that leaves me this oval shape, so that when it's waxed, I can stick it right on top, and then I can fold the edges over, and with the heat of my hands, it'll seal it off for me. A lot of people do use like the ones with like the fancy like shapes where it's got like the zigzag lines or it's a squiggly, so that the edges have a different shape to it. And while that is good for making it pretty, it is also good for keeping it from letting all these little tiny hairs loose, because once you pull on that, it just keeps going. So that'll help to avoid that. I don't have those cutesy little scissors, so I'm not worried about it. I just add a little extra wax to the edges to avoid that issue. Now I'm gonna put you guys in time lapse while I get the rest of these sizes cut out. have several shapes cut out. I did do a few in that printed fabric that I have. Again, it's still 100% cotton. You need it to be 100% cotton so that that goes all the way through the fabric. That way, whenever you do compost, if that's what you decide to do, that it is a product that can be composted. I have a few sizes for that. And then I just have all these other sizes that I cut out. And now I'm going to show you guys how to go about doing the waxing. I have the oven set to 300 degrees, so it's already preheated. Now I'm gonna move on to grating the wax. I keep a specific grater and a specific container for my beeswax wraps. It also has a lid so that I can keep it sealed in here. That way I never have to worry about trying to get all this wax off. It's not fun to try to do, so this is just the best way to not have to deal with all that, is just to have one for this specific purpose. I'm probably gonna do about a quarter of this one right now. I don't wanna do too much just because I'm not doing all the wax wraps. I promised my best friend that I would do some of these with her so that she could learn with me. So I'm gonna save doing my big ones for like my baking dishes and casserole stuff separate so that I can do that with her. So I'm just gonna go ahead and wax this. This smells so good. This smells like straight up honey. Oh, I love it. This is how much that quarter of the bar turned out to be. So, I seriously love this smell. I can never stop smelling it when I use it. You can buy the pellets and then you don't have to go through this, but it saves you so much money and I get so much out of it. So I would rather do the little bit of extra work of grating it myself and save the money. So now I have a specific pan. It looks crusty, dusty, rusty. This is my pan specifically for waxing. You can kind of still see the wax on it. To show you guys several of them is I'm going to lay out some of my smaller ones on this sheet pan. Once I put it in the oven, the wax that has sat here, that's just gonna melt and it's gonna go through to the bottom. So now I'm going to sprinkle. You don't need a ton. I'm gonna sprinkle just enough to go right over this. Just kind of try to evenly spread it out. It doesn't have to be perfect because this is where the paintbrush will come in later to solve the problem of it being evenly distributed. So just like this is gonna go into the oven for about a minute or two. That was in there about 2 minutes. Now, like I told you guys, my paintbrush is hard. So what I'm gonna do is just press it against this portion here where there is no wrap. And I'm just gonna start melting off the wax that is built up on here. And all of a sudden the brush is a brush again. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna spread out the wax, make sure that it got covered on all the areas of the wraps, especially those edges. Paint it around. And then over here I have a piece of parchment paper. I'm gonna take my brush to lift up an edge. Just grab it by the corners, kind of wave it around. It looks like a slice of cheese. Okay, now I'm gonna lay it here to dry the rest of the way. So same with this one, lift up the edge, grab a corner, oh gosh, grab the corners, wave it around, lay it there. So, if you run into this issue, because I spend a little time instructing on that, you can kind of see the wax starting to get hard. It's all starting to turn white, and here it's hardening. I will struggle to get this off and I'll end up peeling the wax. So I'm gonna quickly stick that in the oven. I'm gonna give that a few seconds to just melt all over again, okay? for these really big ones where the sheet is not big enough for it, what I do is I will let it fold in half, but on the inside part of the fold, I'll sprinkle some wax in just to make sure that this portion and this portion get a good amount. Really get it into that edge. And I'll sprinkle some on top. And I try to get some around the edges here so that I can brush that on when it's melted. I don't want a ton on top because I do still have what's in the middle. So now, put this right back in. And let that go for 2 minutes again. Okay. Okay, softening up the brush again. And I'm looking for all of those spots that look like they have no wax. And especially getting here where I folded and along the edges. All right, so I'm down to the last 3, which are these pretty ones. So let me get these finished up and then I'll show you the end product. All right, they are done. So out of the fabric that I cut and using just a little less than half, so I have just a little over half of that wax still left, I was able to get 14 different size wraps. I'm gonna show you how this works on one of these bowls. So for this bowl, I cut this one. I cut this shape out. Like I said, I wanted it to be enough to where it hangs over the edges. So you put it around it. See? And that's what it looks like. Is that not the coolest ever? I love these so much. Saves you a ton of money on plastic wrap and foil and just all these unnecessary bits of trash that we make for ourselves. This helps with that. Plus it smells amazing. Now for something like an avocado, let's just pretend, for the sake of YouTube, that I have already cut this in half. So what I would do with that half of avocado that was exposed, I would stick it on it and do the same thing. Use my hands. To store them. All I do is I will fold them. And I keep these little containers in my cabinets, and so I will fill them up with my wraps. And as I need them, I will pull them out. And for washing them, I just wash them with cold water. I'll run it under some cold water, squirt just a little bit of some mild soap on it, and then I will rub it on with my hands and then rinse it off with the cold water, and I will let it dry on my dish rack and use it over and over again. If you wash it with hot water, the heat's gonna make the wax melt off of it. Don't use hot water when you are washing these. Cold water, mild soap, use your hands, and it's super simple. I eventually, maybe one day, would like to sew buttons onto some of them so that I can use it for sandwiches. For now, for sandwiches though, I have some silicone bags that I use, but eventually I do want the button on these so that I can just seal it up with a string around that button. And they are all folded up and put away now. So I can just stick these inside of a cabinet, which for me is this one. And I'll just leave it there, and anytime I need it, I can just easily grab it because I've got my bowls here and then some of my other stuff here that I can easily just grab from here and cover them with. So yeah, that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you to all my new subscribers for joining in. If you would like to help out my channel and show me some support, then please share any of my videos, whether it's this one or any of the ones I've previously made. Let me know down in the comments if you've ever tried to make wax wraps. I know there's a bunch of different methods to trying it. Let me know what your favorite method is, whether that's like the iron-on method, this way, doing it in the oven, melting it on the stove, whatever way your favorite method is, let me know. Let me know different ways that you use your wax wraps so that way as other people look through the comments, they can get ideas on how they can use theirs as well. If you haven't already, I hope that you're willing to hit that subscribe button and stick around with me for a while on my journey to becoming a homesteader. I'll see you in the next one.